Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sports Bandits. I'm Brian, this is Austin. We got a lot of good games this week. 4 of the top 5 teams playing ranked opponents as well as Bedlam. Austin, why don't you start us out with our first game this week?
Well, we're going to start with a Friday matchup. The Iron Bowl. Auburn travels to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. Brian, what do you think about this one?
Well, in this game, for Alabama, I really think they need to stop Cam Newton. I think they could stop him by putting more money than Auburn does on their sideline. But I think they really need to slow down Cam Newton and Auburn's offense. And I think on the other side of the ball, their offense needs to be very dynamic, be able to run the ball, let McElroy pass the ball. I think that if their defense can stop Cam Newton and their offense can be two-dimensional, they will have no problem topping Auburn in this game.
Well, if Alabama gives enough money to Cam Newton, he might be on their sideline for the game.
That's true.
He could. But assuming that doesn't happen, he will be playing for Auburn. But for Cam Newton, he's got to put all the distractions aside. He's been pretty good at that so far. As long as nothing new or new kind of development breaks, I think he'll be able to put that aside. And he's going to need to have probably his best game of the season because Alabama's a good team. Even though they have 2 losses, they still are the reigning national champions. They're still the reigning SEC champions. And playing at home in Tuscaloosa is very difficult for anybody to beat Alabama.
Our next game, Mike Stoops and the Arizona Wildcats travel up to Eugene and face Oregon in Autzen Stadium. Austin, how do you think this game? How do you think Arizona can win this game?
Well, they have to at least slow down the Oregon offense, which is a tall task. Cal had some success doing it, but it's going to be impossible to completely stop the Oregon offense. With LaMichael James and Darren Thomas playing quarterback, it's going to be near impossible. I think their defense is going to need to hold Oregon down probably into the 20s, maybe 30s. If they do that, then I think Nick Foles and the Arizona offense is going to have enough confidence to say, hey, we can go out there, we can put up more points than them, we can score 28, 35, maybe 42. And I think that's how Arizona is going to be able to win this game.
In this game, I think the key for Oregon is their defense. Their offense has proven themselves. They had one bad game against Cal at Cal. And I really think that if Oregon's defense can produce stops, a couple turnovers, their offense will score more than enough points to help the defense out. So I think in this game, if Oregon's defense can stop the Wildcats' offense, I think that Oregon has no problem winning this game and continuing on to a perfect season.
The last of the 3 Friday games we have, a battle with another undefeated team. Boise travels to Nevada to take on Nevada Wolfpack. Brian, what do you think about this game?
Well, this game has huge implications on the national title scene. I really think in this game, Boise is going to be on the road, completely on the road, not in Washington, D.C. like they were against Virginia Tech. But I think in this game, Nevada's got to have a great game from their running back, Vaitau. And I really think that if he can put up a lot of good yards, that can help the quarterback. They've got a pretty accurate quarterback. He's throwing just under 70% on the year. And I think that if they can run the ball some, it'll help spread out the Boise State defense, and they can attack the defense. On the defensive side of the ball for Nevada, they've got to stop Kellen Moore. That's something that hardly anyone has been able to figure out how to do all season. Granted, the opponents have not been that great, but Nevada's got to find a way to slow down Kellen Moore and the passing attack of Boise State. I think if they can do those things and play a really good game at home, they have a chance to ruin Boise State's BCS hopes.
Well, interesting with BCS hopes, because earlier in the day will be the Alabama-Auburn game. That game will already be decided by the time this happens. If Auburn were to lose that game, it's interesting to see how Boise will react to that, knowing that they have a chance to jump up into the top 2 spots, a chance to jump into really jump into the national title picture. So if Auburn were to lose, it'd be very interesting to see how Boise reacts, and Nevada for that matter. For Nevada, knowing yes, now you actually can eliminate Boise from the national title picture. This game, for what it is, either way, is still a battle of probably 2 of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Kellen Moore, Colin Kaepernick for Nevada. They've both been completely explosive. Kellen Moore already has 28 touchdowns passing this season. On the other side of the ball, for Boise's defense, they need to stop the dynamic rushing ability, not only of Colin Kaepernick, but of Vaitau, as you mentioned. They have 32 combined rushing touchdowns. So Nevada knows how to score, and they know how to do it often. So this is a game that could end. Maybe both these will end up at 100 points by the time this is over. This is going to be an exciting game to watch.
Our first Saturday game we're going to cover is LSU at Arkansas. Austin, how do you think that Arkansas can pull this game out?
Well, I've talked about Ryan Mallett all season, and I think you saw this really personified in the overtime game against Mississippi State. First overtime, Mississippi State turned the ball over, and all Arkansas needed to do was get a field goal. So what did they do? They didn't use Ryan Mallett. They just ran it, went for the field goal, and they missed. Second overtime, they used Ryan Mallett. They ended up scoring and winning the game. So I think that's just a perfect example of how important Ryan Mallett is to this offense. and how much more explosive that he makes this offense, how much more effective this offense is when they let him throw the ball. And I think, just using that example, he's going to have to throw the ball very well against an LSU team, which has been up and down. They've played to their opponents most of this season. They played down to teams like Tennessee. They played up to Alabama. It'll be interesting to see how they show up against Arkansas.
For LSU in this game, the key is to stop Ryan Mallett. If they can slow him down, they can stop the Arkansas offense. On the offensive side of the ball for LSU, their passing game has to be on. They've had some struggles with that. They've had some times where the passing game just wasn't quite on. Few interceptions, incomplete passes, drops. I really think for LSU in this game, they've got to play a complete game. They had that scare last week against Mississippi, and I really think that in this game, they've got to play good. Arkansas, if they do not play well, Arkansas will beat them very easily. So on the defensive side of the ball, stop Ryan Mallett. Offensive side of the ball, complete opposite of that, and be able to pass the ball like Ryan Mallett does, and then you'll have a chance to put away Arkansas in this game.
Moving on to where game day will be in Stillwater, Bedlam, Oklahoma against Oklahoma State. Brian, what do you think OSU needs to do to win?
On this game for OSU, their offense is prolific. They have Brandon Whedon, Justin Blackman on the passing game, and Kendall Hunter on the run game. So I really think that OU is going to have a lot of trouble slowing down this Oklahoma State offense. And for OSU to win this game, I think all they got to do is have their defense step up and force a couple turnovers, rattle Landry Jones a little bit, get him maybe off his game on the road. We know he hasn't been that great on the road in the past. But I really think if the defense can just rattle him a little bit, get a couple turnovers, a couple stops, and get OSU a lead early, OU will not be able to come back on this very good Oklahoma State offense.
Well, looking at the keys for Oklahoma, first with the run game, questions with Roy Finch's health. Looking at the injury he had against Baylor, it looks like it was probably some kind of head or a neck injury, which would make me think he's probably doubtful for this game. If it turns out that he's not playing, look for Moses Madu to have to step up the run game. Brandon Clay as well, but Moses Madu, who's a veteran on this team, he's a good runner, and he'd have to step into that two-hole right behind DeMarco Murray. He's going to need to have that same kind of effectiveness that Roy Finch has had these past few games, giving that explosive, that just burst of energy to the offense that they need. The other question that I'm looking at is the effectiveness of passing the flats. The first time it worked with a touchdown, like you saw DeMarco Murray's first touchdown in the game against Baylor. I'm afraid that may have gotten to Kevin Wilson's head, and I don't want. And you have to realize that that's not going to happen every time. That was a blown coverage by Baylor. OSU's not going to do that. If they can have that same kind of effectiveness, though, that'll be a key. That'll be important for Oklahoma to try to win this game.
All right, now moving on to our picks. Let's take our pick with the Auburn-Alabama game. Austin, how do you see this game going?
Well, I've liked Alabama this season. They suffered a couple of losses, but I think that at home in Tuscaloosa, knowing how important this game is for Auburn, I think Alabama will be able to show up. I think they'll be able to pull off a 31-27 upset.
Yeah, last year on Alabama's way to a national title, Auburn was almost a huge stumbling stone for them, and I think it's time that Alabama wants to repay that favor. And I really think that Alabama will come out strong playing in Tuscaloosa and will be able to put it to Auburn, and I think that they'll win this game by a good 10 points.
Moving on to the Pac-10, Oregon hosts Arizona, and probably in their toughest test remaining on the schedule.
Well, like I said earlier, Oregon, if their defense can get a couple stops on Arizona's offense, then Oregon's offense can score enough points that they'll have no trouble winning this game. And I think that's exactly what will happen. Oregon's defense will be able to stop Arizona a few times throughout the game, and Oregon's offense will be able to continually score, and they'll just put up a lot of points in this game and just continue on for an undefeated season.
Yeah, I think Oregon's offense is just too explosive to limit them to the amount that Arizona is going to need to win this game. I think Oregon's going to be able to win by a couple touchdowns.
Okay, big whack matchup. Boise State travels to Nevada. Austin, how do you see this game going?
Well, I think this is going to be another tough one for Boise. They haven't really had a contest since Oregon State and Virginia Tech. They've had a lot of easy games. They had the blowout of Fresno State. I think Nevada's going to probably have a chance to catch at home to catch them early and probably take a lead. But I think at the end, Boise will be able to squeak out a 3-point win.
Well, this is my upset alert for the week. I really like Nevada in this game, but I think that Boise State's going to be able to pull it out. But watch for this upset, though. I think this will be a great game, a great matchup, and I think that Nevada will stay tough. But I think at the end, the experience on the national stage of Boise State will get the best of Nevada. And Kellen Moore may have to put together another game-winning drive at the end, but I think Boise State will be able to pull this game out in the end.
Back to the SEC, a battle of two really good teams. LSU still looking to keep their BCS hopes alive. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I think in this game that Arkansas's Ryan Mallett will be able to have a good game. They're playing in Arkansas, so I really look for the crowd to be behind them. They almost beat Alabama in Arkansas earlier this year. LSU's had some struggles. They haven't looked good at times. They almost lost last week, and I'm looking for Arkansas to maybe put a punch right in the mouth of Les Miles and get him to stop talking about wanting to go to the national championship game and maybe just keep the SEC champion with the only chance of going.
And they almost beat Auburn as well. If it wasn't for injury to Ryan Mallett, Arkansas may have well already beaten Auburn. But I think I agree with you completely. I think Arkansas is the better team. I just don't see LSU being able to step up for another big game like they did against Alabama. I think that their faults, which have been exposed many times this season, are going to show themselves, and I think that Arkansas will be able to win 31-24.
All right, well, last game, the Bedlam game. We're not going to make a pick on it because of home field bias here. But we'll give some keys to the game once again, just really briefly. Austin, your keys for Oklahoma.
It's got to be, can Moses Madu step up and be the effective runner that Roy Finch has been these last few games? If he can do that, then Oklahoma's in a real good position to win.
For Oklahoma State, I think it's defense, defense, defense. If they can stop Oklahoma's offense a couple times and produce a turnover or two, their offense is going to be too prolific for Oklahoma to come from behind on, I think. So.
Moving on to our can't-miss game of the week, I look at the NFL. The Green Bay Packers are traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. This is going to be a great matchup of two young quarterbacks, Matt Ryan with Atlanta, Aaron Rodgers with Green Bay. Look for them to have really big games for their teams, both trying to get that #1 seed in the NFC for now, and hopefully in the playoffs trying to get home field advantage.
Well, I'm going to be lame and pick a can't-miss game that we've already talked about on the show. I'm going to take Nevada and Boise State. I really think that this game has tons of national implications, and I really feel that Nevada, this could be the biggest game in their school's history. The student section will come out. They'll be all over this game. And I think for Boise State, it's their chance to make a final push for a national championship. You know, they've been trying to break that barrier for a long time. This could be their one chance. I don't want to miss this game. I think it's going to be great, and I really think that that's going to be one of the best games this week.
You may be lame, but this game sure isn't going to be lame.
That's true.
Well, there's a lot of games that aren't going to be lame. Hope you enjoy this weekend of college football. Hope you enjoy this weekend of eating. And we'll see you guys next week after the Thanksgiving holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving.